have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 222 of the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're going to take a deep look into the Eclipse Awards that occurred this Thursday. These are the year-end awards for 2022 with a lot of very interesting decisions that need to be made by the voters. And we're going to have one actual voter, our very own Paul Halloran, on here live with Pete Visco, of course, to talk about the Eclipse Awards. And also we'll quickly at the beginning go through the Fairground Stake races, a quick recap of what we saw this past weekend. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Greatly appreciate it. You guys know the drill by now. Smash that thumbs up button. We had a lot of people with a lot of likes last Thursday, almost 1,000 views. Greatly appreciate it. And then hit that notification bell because we've got a very busy week coming up here as it is Pegasus week. And what a card they have this Saturday. We'll be talking about that all week long. You can find me on Twitter at the bottom of the screen at hkravitz there on my name tag, hkravitzhorse@gmail.com. Scrolling right now if you'd like to email me. Very quickly, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Anchor is where you can listen to us if you're interested in that. Power picks are fantastic. Look below the video player. We are on fire last week. We had some great scores last week. Check that out. And of course, we have a wonderful website, hhhracingpodcast.com. Right before I bring on my co-host here, one other thing I'd like to share with you. Let's look at the schedule for this week and what a schedule we have for you this week. Everything's up, of course, on YouTube, but tomorrow night, of course, depends when you're watching this, but Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, we're going to cover the 4 non-Pegasus stakes. There are 4 grade stakes that are not directly related to the Pegasus specifically. They're fantastic races. We'll discuss that. Then, special times now. We are not on Thursday. Thursday night are the Eclipse Awards live on Fanduel. We want to avoid those, obviously, and let people watch. So we're going to be moving our flagship show to Wednesday this week. A little bit earlier also. Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern. Details about the 3 Pegasus races, the 2 turf races, and, of course, the World Cup. Massive preview. We'll also give our Pick 5 tickets and talk about our ticket construction. And then Tony Rollo of Crownsway Racing will be with us also to give his pick for the Pegasus and also talk a little bit about our new sponsor, Crownsway. And then Wednesday, right after that at 9 p.m., Bettin and Boozin with host Kyle Roscoe and friends. He'll be talking about Championship Sunday in the NFL with some great info and also talk a pick 4 for Friday. And then finally, last but certainly not least, this Saturday, it's a pool party through Hawthorne live. Myself, Matt Miller, Kyle Roscoe will be at the Crazy Poor OTB in Villa Park. We'll be covering live the last 3 races of the day at Gulfstream, the 2 turf, the 1 dirt. I'm sure Pete and Paul will be joining us live at some point for some quick info there. So it's going to be a tremendous, tremendous week here on the HHH Racing Podcast. You absolutely do not want to miss any of that. All right, let's go ahead and bring on our co-host right now. I'm waiting very patiently. First, I'm going to reverse it. Why not? The award-winning journalist from the Saratoga Special, also an Eclipse Award voter, and from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I hear they're getting some bad weather up there soon. Let's bring him in. Batten down the hatches. It's Paul Halloran, and from Maryland, Pete Visco.
No, not soon, Howard. It's been snowing for like 7 hours, and don't even bring it up because I will piss and moan about it all day and all night. I hate it. And you know what I hate worse? I hate when people say, oh, but we haven't had any yet. It's supposed to snow. That's normal. No, it's not normal to have to shovel out your driveway and clean off your car. It's not normal. It sucks. And that's my weather report from Boston.
No, I love
Paul,
it.
I will say about the weather
Paul.
Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry, Pete. Go ahead.
No, I was saying I like Grumpy Paul to start the show.
Yeah, boy, little anger. What happened to the Happy American? Happy American won Saturday, Paul. What happened to the Happy American?
Yeah.
We were both right about the weather, by the way, Saturday. The dirt ended up being fast. They got intermittent sprinkles. The weather, excuse me, race 11 was taken off the turf. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but it wasn't nearly as bad. But I'm sorry you were facing some weather up there. Listen, it's the winter in the Northeast and the Midwest and whatever. So just go down to warm, sunny Maryland where it never snows and it's all good. Right, Pete?
Yeah, it's only rainy and cold. I had a root canal today at noon, so it's been a banner Monday for me as well. So I could be the grumpy old man. Hey, Paul, real quick, did I ever tell you I had my car when I lived in Boston? I lived in Southie, and I parked my car in the yard, and it snowed one time about 6 feet. It felt like, and I didn't see my car again until maybe like May. I couldn't get my car out, so I know
you just
all
say
about
screw
those
it, right?
Yeah, I was like, I'm done with that. So.
Apparently, Sean Kane said good night. I don't know. I guess he's leaving the show. I don't think so. Patrick, hey, Patrick, what's going on? Penn State Scott, thank you. Appreciate the belated 2-year. Roshan, man, this guy's been all over the place. I appreciate it, Roshan. Very astute viewer and dedicated. Guys, before we get into the Fair Rounds and Eclipse Awards, we need to thank our sponsors. We thanked a lot of people last Thursday. This show would not exist without our sponsors, and we've had several sponsors. We have a lot of current ones. Let's just run them down real quick, guys. First, we have to thank the Adelphi Racing Club. Matt Cuter, they've been with us, guys, for a long time, ever since I bought into the racing club, and I have some fractional ownership of several horses. I want a big tip of the cap, big shout out to Matt Cuter, Joran Zatz, Brian Hahn, Ray Handel, Christoph Clement, everyone involved, with the Adelphi Racing Club. Guys, they have been a big sponsor for us now going on a second year. Matt Cuter, we have many shows regarding the Adelphi Racing Club. And I just want to show that if you go to our website and you look, here's the website, of course. If you go look below, scroll down, we've got a lot of great things on here. There's Bettin and Boozin strategies. But if you scroll down there, we have a section called All About Adelphi. We've done 5 shows with them. The last show was great. It's a year in review. So please check it out. Even if you're not familiar with Adelphi, guys, it's a great way to find out about that syndicate. They've been on fire, or we've been on fire. And quick shout out, I have a horse / they have a horse running this Thursday in race 3 at Aqueduct. Race 5. Sorry, race 5. The 3-horse Gem Mint 10. Guys, it's a New York bred maiden race. This is a first-time starter. He's live. Okay, don't put the house on him and get mad at me, but this horse has a big shot. Gem Mint 10, Thursday, the 3-horse, race 5 for Adelphi. This is a Lauban colt, Paul, and he's working well. I've seen his works through video. So anyway, shout out to Matt Cuter and everyone at Adelphi. Also, let's go in order. Hawthorne Racecourse, guys. Hawthorne's been a great sponsor for us last year. They're continuing this year. Shout out to Jim Miller, of course, who's been on the show. Emily, Rhonda, everyone involved. Really appreciate it. Everyone at Hawthorne. We're going to be there for the pool party. So anyone, shout out to Hawthorne Racecourse. They've been outstanding, and their product's going to be improving, I think, in 2023. So we greatly appreciate them as well. And then finally, a new one, Crownsway Racing, Tony Rollo. They're a new sponsor for us. They have a great syndicate as well. We'll be talking about them in the next month. We already had them on the show. So very excited, of course, to have Crownsway as part of our sponsorship. And also quick shout out to Stable Duel, who was our sponsor for about a month. So anyway, Paul and Pete, you guys know how it works. We don't make a lot of money through just our views. You need like tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands just to make money on YouTube through the views. We do it through our sponsorships and our power picks. So, Paul, it's great to have professional, well-known syndicates that sponsor us. And we're welcome to any new ones, too.
Well, you know how you are. And that really is the name of the game now, whether it's, you or I buying 5% of a horse with an Adelphi. As you know, I have a few horses with Zilla Racing, or it's, Mike Rapoli and Vinny Viola spending $2 million each on a 2-year-old, but you actually are seeing that a lot more at the highest levels, where 2 or 3 of those groups are getting, look at the flight line. good luck reading the ownership group of Flightline. It goes and goes and goes and goes. So, it's terrific, and we certainly appreciate the support, and we root like heck for those horses.
Absolutely. Pete, we're welcoming any new sponsors, food sponsors. If you got any ideas, Pete, we'll reach out to these people and see if they're interested.
I mean, we got to figure something out, right? We got to start getting some beer sponsorships. We all drink water on the show half the time. Aquafina, if you're watching, feel free. Whoever, bring Vineyard Vines. I always have a Vineyard Vine shirt on. We'll take them. They got some cash in their pockets. We'll take it.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let's see. I think I talked about everything we wanted to talk about. So let's get into, let me just double check. Mention the pool party. I don't think we need to show that banner. Let's move on. Let's talk very quickly, guys, about the fairgrounds. I'm just going to roll through the last 4 races and just the charts and your quick thoughts. Let me bring them up on the screen. Paul, I'll let you go first. The first race that we're going to just briefly was the sprint race. It was the Duncan Kenner. It was taken off. This Surveillance horse, I don't know if he's like going to be a Breeders' Cup sprinter or anything, but he's very good right now.
Yeah, but that was actually the second race in the sequence, right, Howard?
Correct. It was, yes.
Yeah, and we talked about it on the show. I think we all looked at the race differently depending on whether it was dirt or turf. And hats off to meteorologist Howard, who wasn't necessarily right about the forecast, but was right about the fairgrounds not being able to run on that turf course if there's more than 7 drops of rain. So that, the A's, that horse was a straight A, I think, for all of us on dirt. And, he was bet accordingly. He was clearly the horse to beat on dirt and ran like it.
Only thing, Howard, Paul, about that one is he's only got his wins at fairgrounds. So you just have to hope that he can travel. He's got 6 wins, all 6 at fairgrounds. He's run well at the other tracks. I mean, he hits the board a ton, but you have to see if from a, if you're going to be a top-notch horse and maybe be in the top races down the road, you're going to have to win on the road at some point.
Pete, I got to bring this up because I told you that I throw myself on the sword. I am really pissed, everyone out there. And listen, if we just come on the show and say we're right all the time, it'd be a complete lie. I felt like I handicapped very well this past Saturday, but I really effed up my pick 5. And Pete, I'll let you comment. I played about $150 pick 5 ABC. I only did not use 2 horses in the first leg. It would have cost me about $12 to $15 more. That's it. So 10% at most of my bet. I could have added the 7 and the 9 as C's, Pete, in the first leg. And I did not, I didn't do it. And for an extra $12, I could have cashed for $1,300. I didn't like the horse, but I knew it was a wide open race. What do you do, Pete? If you can add a horse for the bettors out there, if you could add a horse for a small amount, is it worth doing even if you don't like them? I think that's the major question.
Yeah, I mean, it gets dangerous because then you start doing that every time and you start wasting money and you lower your value on the ticket. But like you said, and we were talking about this offline, but like you said, when you already have 7 of the 9 and you don't really have a strong opinion even on your top choices, we didn't like the favorite that much, or at least didn't think it laid over the field in any way, then I can understand adding the 2 extras as a C. Otherwise, I think you just sort of get carried away with it. But in certain circumstances, I'm sitting there going, in that case, maybe. But I mean, you can get pissed about it every time if you say, I could have had that horse, I could have had it, but it wasn't a horse that we liked. It didn't, even on paper after the race, you always go back and you look for a reason. And I didn't even see a reason to add this one aside from hitting the all button, basically.
Well, what really annoyed me too, sorry, Paul, is I love Baseline Beater. I talked about it in the show. I thought the horse ran huge. He didn't break rate. That's the horse that finished second at 14-1. What really pissed me off, Paul, is not only did I not use the top horse, I used Baseline Beater in every way, shape, or form except with Single Ruler, the big price on top. I didn't pay place or show. I'm not going to do show money. I could have put a nice, place bet on. So I was completely right about the race other than the winner, Paul, especially with one of my best plays of the day. And zeroed out. That's just bad betting. I effed up. That's bad.
Yeah, it's unfortunate betting. The thing I think people need to understand, Howard, and I do think we talk a lot about ticket structure, which I think is good because I've been doing it a long time, and I know I can be a lot better at it, and that's why I keep doing it. I'm trying to get more reps. But
See, okay.
I
the
think
thing
you're
that
over the
people
10,000 hours already, Paul. I think you've
Yeah.
passed those at this point.
Yeah, I'm on 100, Pete. But no, the issue is, there's a big difference between adding an A and adding a C, right? Because you add the C, you add a couple of extra horses of C in the C column, right? It's really only affecting that one ticket, because in order to hit, only one C can come in.
Yeah.
So in your case, it was only affecting that one ticket with using the C in leg one with all 4 A's. Now you could be like me. I had like 2 C's, a B, and 2 A's. So that's a bad report card for a multi-race bet. But I will tell you this, Pete. You know what's ironic about it? I had my original ticket, I had 1, 3, 5, 7, 8. And my ticket that I put in the interest of budget, I had 1, 3, 5, 8. So the 7, and I did have, if you saw my grid on the power picks, I had the 7 as a C.
I saw you had it as a C, so I was excited for you. Yeah.
He was my 5th choice in the race, but but it's frustrating for Howard. Howard had the hard part is getting those 4 A's in a row, because
I had
normally
the same
a C
thing.
comes in the
Pete
first
as
leg,
well.
you're like,
I had
right.
the same thing and I had that 4 horse or whatever. You had it as an A, right? That 4, Howard.
I did.
I had the 4 as a B, so we both would have hit if we could have just got that 4 home. We both would have hit. It would have been beautiful.
Well, he lost by 2. I mean,
it wasn't that close. No, it wasn't close at all. But
anyway, typical. We're crying over spilled milk like little babies. But I want to bring it up for the betting public, because people say don't add horses you don't like, but if it only costs a very small amount, why not?
I wouldn't say do it, but in the case of if you have 7 of the 9. Then you're like, well, if I get beat by the other 2, how pissed are you? So you're like, I might as well.
Pete, our report card Saturday was pretty good. We had 4 A's and an F.
And an F, yes. Yes.
All right, let's get on the next race, guys. Again, I don't want to take too long. The Owls look. Pete, we got to put us on screen. Pete, the Owls look came through exactly. I mean, of course, right? Exactly as we planned. Got the jump on Chop Chop. Paul, I will give you a lot of credit, though. You said Chop Chop won't be nearly as far back. She was not. She just couldn't go by. I think she should go back on turf, Paul. I think the dirt experience.
I'll tell you, I didn't see it live because I had 2 games Saturday, but I was watching replays when I got home. And, if I hadn't known the result, I would be watching that race saying, how much can I bet on Chop Chop on the far turn? And, if you listen to John Dooley, he was calling Chop Chop, obviously 4 to 5. And, I mean, I'll tell you, the Alice look was Saez, correct?
Yep.
He is tough, boy. I'll tell you. You know what? He doesn't ride the same race every time, but not often is it a case of he loses because he didn't move soon enough or he didn't have his horse in the right position. But I still, I would certainly no excuse for Chop Chop. If you single Chop Chop and missed just because of that, you are stinging. Although the way you're showing the chart, Howard, the way they bet the 4 kind of was an indication, right? 2 down to 2 to 1. I think it was 4 to 1 morning line, if I'm not mistaken.
I think 7 to 2, if I recall, but something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, to be that,
so not too much.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, with Chop Chop going odds on, that horse took some serious money, and boy, I'll tell you, she just pulled away. Just when it looked like Chop Chop was going by.
This was the Silver Bullet day. It's points for the Oaks. I mean, right now, Hoosier Philly looks clearly the best 3-year-old filly out there right now. I'm not really impressed with this crop other than Hoosier Philly. We'll see who, still might come of age, so to speak, Pete. But unless there's someone out west that Baffert throws out there or someone produces, I'm just these 3-year-old fillies right now, and I'm including Wonder Wheel in that. Maybe that's a lot of disrespect, but they just don't do it for me, Pete, right now.
No, I agree with you, but I hate to.
89 buyer, though. Sorry to interrupt you. That's a solid buyer. Very good.
It's solid, especially with the jump. So if you can get into the 90s, into the mid 90s, you can be competitive in some of these races. But I did think I'm with you. When I watched the race, I was like, oh, Paul, you what you predicted sounds good. Chop Chop is right there, perfect position. Like you said, going down the lane, if I was live betting the race, easy Chop Chop, I would have bet a straight exacta, and then just couldn't go by, and the Alice look kicked away again, which was impressive. But I don't know if it's impressive as much as the Chop Chop hung. I don't know which one to give more credit for in that case.
I give more credit to Al's look. I thought she dug in really well, in my opinion.
She did. She did.
Let's go on the next race, guys. This race bothered me. I got to tell you, the Louisiana Stakes, you guys know I liked Forza d'Oro, and I was ecstatic when Run Classic, I don't know if you guys saw, it was a little bit fractious in the gate. I think that might have caused one of the reasons why he wasn't just sent to the lead. Forza d'Oro walked. I mean, walked on the lead. And again, we've said this over and over. I want to throw kudos out to Pete Forentel, Jonathan Kitchen, and the In the Money crew, who talks about this a lot. When you've got a speed horse, guys, I don't mind the first two. I don't mind the first half being slow. But then on the far turn, you've got to try to put separation on the closers. And Forza d'Oro, I can't recall the jock. Maybe you guys can look it up for me. But, slowed it down so much they allowed everyone into the race, and they just bunched up at the top of the stretch. And Forza d'Oro just didn't have that kick good enough because he's not like a quick turn of foot. He's more of a grindy type. And he raced well. I'll show the chart, finished third. But Happy American was like 8 wide, guys. And this horse, Paul, I'm telling you what, I'm becoming a real big fan of this horse. This 95 buyer and this win is much, much better than it looks on paper to me, Paul.
And it was Giroux on Forza d'Oro, Howard.
Okay.
And Nick Tamaro also talks about this quite a bit. The good news is you're going slowly. The bad news is you're keeping the closers closer, and they're going to have just as much, if not more, left in the tank as you. So when you speed up, when you drop the hammer and try to run away from them, well, you're 5 lengths in front when you could have been 10, and this is what happened. So I think you have a legitimate gripe there, Howard.
So look at the fractions, guys. Look at Forza d'Oro. Those are his actual fractions. I don't mind the 25.08 and then 24.67. I'm okay with that. Me personally, I know people disagree. What I don't like is the 25.34 third quarter. That should be like 23 and 3. Like, just go and try to separate and take your chances. I just don't understand it, Pete. And Drew I think is a very good jockey. I just didn't like that. But again, you got to credit to Happy American, who closed from the back of the pack for the most part in a small field. I suggested on Twitter, Pete, that they should seriously consider Dubai. And I'm not joking. This horse can run all day. The Americans right now are nothing special. I don't know who would be coming, overseas, or not overseas, but local contingent, whatever. I guess my worry would be it's really not a closers kind of track. But, I mean, why not? We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll
for
see.
that money, I mean, you take the shot if you have a horse that's informed. The two things that you talked about, though, I agree. We always talk about it. Kick away. Don't keep them close. Like Paul said, you keep them close, you keep them dangerous, and then you don't have that kick. But the one thing about Forza d'Oro, when I was looking back after the race, that horse is better sitting off and has only one sitting off. So I'm wondering if they're just, and I know sometimes you inherit the lead, and Run Classic didn't go, which was, problematic maybe, but that's a horse that has only won from sitting right off. So maybe is better with a little bit of a target, and maybe that's just to be the strategy, and maybe just on the lead can't get it done for some reason. So it's a couple races now on the lead and lost, but has won coming off the pace. So, and not from far off, just like second, third, but maybe needs a target in front of them. I don't know.
Go ahead, Paul.
Well, he went 25 flat the first quarter.
Yeah, so nobody else was going.
Yeah. And Howard, to your point, if you look at that chart, Happy American had the second fastest third quarter. If playing right to the point you're trying to make there. Look at the ground Happy American made up. That third quarter, Happy American went in 20, only slower than the horse that finished last.
Yeah.
Right. So he was making his move, right? Yeah. As Forza d'Oro was going slower. Yeah. The horse was, So Howard, you're making some cogent points tonight, but it's only Monday.
Paul, I'm capable of making cogent points on a Monday, a Saturday night.
We'll let you know.
No, maybe not.
It's a long week. It's a long week. Pete.
Are you saying I should save? Are you saying I'm only worth a few cogent points, and maybe I should save them?
I'm saying you're going 21-4, and you better hope it's not
like
a mile
dog.
and an eighth race.
Listen, like Paul, Paul, I'm chucking, to use basketball terminology, I'm chucking from the cheap seats early here in the first quarter. Right?
And you're hitting.
So,
you're hitting.
And I'm hitting. Matthew Chmura said they interviewed Brad Cox after the race. He said Chop Chop was short for that race. I hate that kind of excuse though. Saez is tough to get by on Friday. I thought Milliken was going right by Saez horse, but was a dead heat. I liked Milliken. That was a horse that they talked about on Bettin and Boozin. And then Matthew Chimera, there you go. It's not how fast you're going, but how you're going fast. Richard likes to say that, but that wasn't his original quote. Anyway, let's get into the last race real quick.
By the way, real quick, the trifecta came in back-to-back races, that same trifecta, and paid 57 for 50 cents. So all you had to do was ride it back, the same 3 in a row, 2 races.
Okay. Easy game.
Yeah,
David
easy,
Aragona
right?
tweeted out, I think it was on Friday or Thursday. I have to look at the date. There were 2 races in a row, guys. I don't know if you heard about this. 2 races in a row at Aqueduct that finished by this number order, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
In 2 races in a row. And I'm the math guy, right? 720 to 1 is the odds of that happening one time. And then you double it, and I don't have my calculator in front of me, but I put it out on Twitter. It's like 540,000 or something to 1 of that happening twice in a row. That's what separates this show, guys, from any other show on YouTube. We can throw out numbers just like that. Speaking of numbers, here's the Lecomte. Instant Coffee, who, of course, I had a lone A in my dead pick 5, of course. I wasn't blown away by this race. Again, maybe I'm just not giving these horses enough credit. Instant Coffee got a 92, closed from the back, ran well, 2 fills second. Pete, your quick thoughts here.
I mean, I love the way Instant Coffee ran. I don't know if it means if you talk. See, here's where we get bad when we talk about 3-year-olds is we equate everything to how they're going to do in the Derby instead of just looking at the race on its own. The race on its own, I thought was pretty good. Sat in the back, was really far back, made a sweeping move, sort of blew by and beat the field. It wasn't the best of field. So that's the way you're supposed to beat a field, especially if you're closing. And so is a 92 and is what he does enough to win the Derby? I don't know. Maybe if he keeps improving, but we could also appreciate the race for what it is also a little bit. It was a nice race against a crappy field that turned out to be not that great. So I don't know what you're saying long-term, but.
Paul, I think I saw something like 17 to 1 in the future pools on Instant Coffee. I mean, gosh, people over-exaggerate like the instantaneous reaction. I like Instant Coffee. I have no problem with this horse. I have no problem with the connections. I love Brad Cox. I wouldn't touch Instant Coffee in the future odds anything lower than 50. Everyone sees one win and just freaks out, Paul. It's just crazy.
I agree. To me, I mean, I do think he looks like he can run all day, but that doesn't necessarily win you the Derby. Unless it becomes an unbelievable war of attrition, but that's not going to happen 2 years in a row. But I don't think he, at least to this point, and there's a long way to go, but you win the Derby by having that kind of explosive, the turn of foot you just talked about, Howard, on that far turn move. Well, that is typically what wins the Derby, right? Again, not this year, but the horse who's leading at the 8th pole, you got to be first, second, or third at the 8th pole, and I don't know in a field of 20 if he's going to have the turn of foot and acceleration. Now, again, he does look like he can run all day, though. And I talked about it on the show. Go back and watch his last replay, the race he won before that. I am waiting for Red Route 1 to come back, Howard, because that race looks even better with Instant Coffee winning the other day.
Well, Paul, I got news for you. Red Route 1 is running in the Southwest Saturday. There you go.
These are both of my hands. And I'm going to be filling them with electronic money.
I wouldn't fill them too much because a complete possible monster Arabian Knight is running.
Even better.
For
Good.
Baffert.
Good.
That's the horse that I saw in person in open race 1 of Breeders' Cup Saturday, who just trounced a field. Really quick,
Baffert will make it even better, Howard.
Pete, Echo again is fine. He had a little bit of an issue. They pulled him up, but he's going to be fine, from what I understand. Just a very minor issue. I can't recall what it was. You guys remember hearing about it?
No, but I know this is the number of turns that horse is going to run from.
Yeah, I mean, they say that's a horse that you don't even waste the time going further on any of the Derby races. No. Just cut that horse back and let it do what eventually it's going to want to do anyway.
He might be Howard. We might see him in the Woody Stevens on Belmont.
I was going to say Woody Stevens and then the Jerkins, right? He's a sprinter.
And we could see him if you want to come back for a second weekend. you can see him in the Jerkins as well. I will.
I'd love to. Maybe we should just throw this out there, Pete. I don't know, Paul. We can wait on it, but Pete, I'm not exactly sure about you. I don't want to say something I shouldn't, but I know that Paul and I will definitely be in Saratoga for Whitney Week. Pete, I think you're planning on coming. Is that correct?
Maybe it's 50-50 right now.
Possibility. So we all might be there and Kyle Roscoe will be there also. So anyway, all right, guys, let's get to the Eclipse Awards, and we're going to spend literally 6 or 7 minutes. We're not going to go through every Eclipse Award. There are many of them. There are a lot of obvious choices. It's been talked about ad nauseum. We just haven't talked about it yet. Guys, we're going to focus on 4 categories. And Paul, I'm going to let you expound because you're a voter and you're probably more familiar about how it all works than Pete and myself. We're going to talk about the 3-year-old male, the male sprint award, the female turf award, and the trainer. That's the only human award we're going to talk about first. And I want to throw kudos out to America's Best Racing, who we're going to show. This is an article of America's Best Racing. I thought it was the easiest way to see what was going on. Actually, Paul, you are a voter, sir.
Yes, I am.
Very quickly, when were the votes due? And just in general, how many years have you been doing it, and how difficult of a process is it for you personally?
They were due, I want to say early. They encourage you not to do anything until after the Malibu on December 26th. We get the PPs and the preliminary, we get the ballot online early to mid-December, but they encourage you not to do anything till after the Malibu. And I think they would do pretty soon after New Year's, as I recall. I could be wrong on that, but you vote for 3 in each category, but it's not, as far as the winners, it isn't a point system. The Eclipse winner is the horse or the human who gets the most first place votes. So the second and third, while it makes for good conversation in a platform like this, the award winners, because if it were a point thing, you could have a horse that got a ton of second place votes, and so it's the horse that gets, or the human connection, that gets the most first place votes. And they do come up with 3 finalists. So going into Thursday night, you just showed them, Howard. Other than they do not announce the Horse of the Year finalists, but I think that's one of the categories we don't need to really spend. Horse of the Year and older dirt male, we probably don't need to spend any time on. But
Paul, how long have you been voting, Paul? How many years?
I believe this year was my 3rd.
Okay,
if I'm not mistaken.
And of course, when you're an Eclipse Award winner, which you'll be next year,
honorable mention. Honorable mention.
No, this year and next year you'll be.
We got you in the future pool. We both have you in the future pool.
I am wearing this in tribute to my boss, Tom Law, who will go up there Thursday night and accept one of the 2 writing Eclipse Awards in the category that I was an honorable mention on. And we've talked enough about it, but it's great for the special. And so it's you take it seriously. There's kind of a little controversy. Some people maintain, well, I'm not voting for the steeplechase because I don't follow steeplechase racing, and I do not agree with that. I can read, I don't bet harness racing every day, but I can read the PPs and bet the Woodbine giveaway at midnight on a Friday when they give it away. And it doesn't require a lot of effort to watch replays, as we know from this show. So you take it seriously, and all the votes, I believe, are made public after the fact. A lot of people tweet theirs in advance. I have not, but I certainly have no problem sharing how I vote. I think you got the right 4 categories. So the only other one I would add, if we have time, I thought the male turf category.
I was going to say the same thing, Paul.
Interesting.
I was going to mention that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
I'll if we have time, we'll mention that. By the way, quick shout out and condolences to our great fan from Buffalo, Jim Pilares. Oof, the Bills. Yikes!
He knew it though.
Took it on the chin. But he's got a question for you, Paul. Do you have Rich Strike as Horse of the Year on your ballot?
Let's see, Horse of the Year. I'll have to check my ballot because I'm really unsure of that. No.
All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's get into it right now. And I think Pete, we'll let Paul go first since he's the one that actually voted.
Yeah, please.
Let's go to 3-year-old male first. So again, you see it here. It's Epicenter, Modern Games, and Taba. Paul, I think most people would consider between Epicenter and Taba. I have a pretty strong opinion here. Who did you vote for, and who do you think who'd you vote for? Who should win and who will win, Paul?
I think I would answer all three with Epicenter. I certainly voted for Epicenter.
Okay.
I think he will win, although I think it's going to be very close, and I think he should win. And that is, Taba. The argument for Taba obviously is the 3 grade ones versus the 1. But if you look at the body of work, and Epicenter did not run a bad race. I mean, he had to be pulled up in the Breeders' Cup Classic. And
this is Epicenter right here, Paul. If you can see, it was hard. I didn't want to bring up PPs, but everyone could see. I mean, model consistency, ran in the best races. I'll wait to give my opinion strongly after.
But
dance every dance. I mean, dance every dance.
And again, there is no clunker in there. And and Taba does have the 3 grade ones. No disrespect to the Pennsylvania Derby, which I loved going to, but that is a 2nd tier grade 1 at this point. And one of the grade 1s was a 7 furlong race. Again, that's great, but Epicenter actually had I think one of his the Churchill race, right?
Sorry, no. This is Taba. I just wanted to.
This is Taba. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Taba had 3. You mentioned the grade 1s, Paul. This brings up the big question that I've heard. How do you, as a voter, balance grade 1s versus other, a good seconds in grade 1s or grade 2s? It's tricky because if you think grade 1s, it's 3 versus 1. I mean, if Taba wins, I won't have like a major, shit fit about it, but I don't think he's personally deserving of it.
Yeah, I agree, and we'll let Pete chime in. And if you look at the grade 1s, again, he beat. You look at the Pennsylvania Derby, and Cyberknife was in there, who really didn't really run his race. Again, it's not a question of speaking against a horse. I think that though the body of work from Epicenter and the dances he danced, and the if there's in my opinion, and I'm biased, but if there's a 4th leg of the Triple Crown, it's the Travers. It's that is a really tough race to win. So I'm in camp Epicenter.
Yeah, Pete, here's Taba again. I'll bring us all on screen. To me, 3-year-old of the year is about it's a dirt award, first of all, for the most part, but it's about the Triple Crown races and the Travers. And the bottom line is, as good as Taba is, and he had a very good year, he was non-factor. He didn't even run in the Travers, and was a non-factor in the Triple Crown races.
I agree. I mean, it's not for me. It's not really a question. I mean, I didn't really get the. I mean, Epicenter to me, finishing 2nd in the Kentucky Derby is better than winning the Santa Anita Derby, especially against the field it turned out to be. So when you start comparing, you can't just be surface level and look grade 1 versus grade 2. You got to look a little bit deeper. Like Paul said, in the Travers, Epicenter buried Cyberknife and Zandon, who were the same horses that Taba beat in the Pennsylvania. And then, I mean, I even thought Taba was a little disappointing in the Classic because theoretically, I thought he should have gone by and got 2nd. I mean, he wasn't beating Flightline, obviously, but if he could have and didn't, and maybe that would have elevated his case a little bit. But I just don't think I go year to year, end to end consistency, unless you do something so great at the end of the year. Like if Taba won the Classic, then I would say give it to him. I mean, then you get 100%. It. But I mean, winning the Malibu at 40 cents just to get another grade 1 under your belt isn't exactly deserving of an Eclipse Award in my book.
Paul, I've been following horse racing for, I'd say, fair 30 years and seriously deep diving betting for 15 to 20. We talked about on the show, this year had the worst grade 1 fields in terms of size and quality I have ever seen. And I think you have to take that into consideration. Not every grade 1 is the same. Sometimes grade 2s can be better. To me, it's more about field rather than the number that you put after the grading, at least for this year, Paul. Is that fair to say?
I would agree with you. And I would say that if you were looking at one performance, and it's funny because for some reason the Travers lends itself to a tour de force. But if you think of Arrogate, his coming out party was in the Travers. Poor Tiz the Law when they had to run the Travers before the Kentucky Derby. The day that they ran the Travers, I can assure you that if that were the Kentucky Derby, no horse was within 3 lengths of them. And frankly, to me, the single best performance of the year was Epicenter in the Travers. I thought he was really, really good that day. And as Pete said, I mean, Zandon was pretty good, even though I overrated him greatly and overbet him every time, Pete. He still was a good. We won't hold that against him, Pete. So anyway, I agree with you, Howard. I don't think I wouldn't get really upset if Table won, although I don't think it is the jump ball that people are making it up to be. It was not. I gave it a lot of thought. I did my homework. It was not hard for me to vote Epicenter over Table.
I agree, and I think he'll get it. And
Me too.
Yeah, and Modern Games, shout out to him too. I mean, he's the best turf. Actually, I think two of the best turf races of the year. The one at Woodbine was spine tingling, and obviously the Breeders' Cup was fantastic also. So, all right, let's go on to the next category, guys. And I'm just getting some things up here on the screen. The next category that we are going to look at is male sprinter. Now, this one's tricky, and Paul, I know you have a real sentimentality here, so I don't know. I'm sure this was hard for you to some extent, although you're an extremely professional and honest person. I'm sure you voted the way you felt, not taking away the story. You can see it. No, you can't see Jack on the screen. Maybe I should switch screens. There you go. We've got, and you can see it in the middle. And that's right. You got Cody's Wish, Elite Power, Jackie's Warrior. Paul, we know that you are a big fan of Cody's Wish for obvious reasons. Who did you vote for? Who should win it? And who will win it? Paul Halloran.
I voted for Elite Power.
Wow! Did you really?
I voted for Elite Power,
Wow.
and I am a big. My issue, Cody's Wish, as you mentioned, for many reasons, I'm all wrapped up in that. However, I look at the sprint, and I know 7 furlongs is a quote sprint, and they say, well, a 1-turn mile is like a sprint. Well, it's a mile is what it is, because a 1-turn mile is 33% longer, Mr. Math Teacher, than a 6 furlong sprint. How'd I do there?
I got to calculate that. Hold on a second. Okay.
6 furlongs to 8 furlongs. I think I got that right.
That's impressive.
So, and look, so Cody's Wish, the 7 furlong forego was an outstanding performance, but and why I didn't vote for Jackie's Warrior, who I've been a huge fan of since covering the Saratoga Special when he was a 2-year-old. He really didn't run his race those last 2 when it counted. He got softened up a little by Pipeline in the forego. I get it, but I did not think that Jackie's Warrior, again, on the body of work, and people are going to say, well, what about those other 4 wins, Paul? I get it. But, the Churchill Downs, I don't know. I thought that I didn't have a strong feeling, and Elite Power did nothing wrong and won by far the most important race of the year for sprinters. And that was my logic there.
Pete, your thoughts?
I agree with Paul 100%.
Sorry, wait, Paul, who's going to win it?
Pardon me? Oh, who's going to win it? That's a good question, Howard. I think it's going to be Elite. I think it's very close. I hear a lot about Jackie's Warrior, and you can make the body of work argument. I don't know. I don't know. I would say one of those 2, and I guess I'd say Elite Power because maybe there are people like me who just default to who won the biggest race of the year. You can't do that every year, but in this case, I don't know. I just don't think that Jackie's Warrior brought it in those last 2 races when he needed to. And, you look at Elite Power's campaign, and I know it was off to kind of a late start, but boy, there wasn't, if he ran into Malibu, he certainly would have been second choice, if not right up there. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to win it. I think Elite Power should win it.
Pete, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay.
Yep.
There's Elite Power if you want to talk about him. He was a maiden in June, Pete.
Well, I had a couple thoughts, and when I was taking notes on this one, my first thought was, aside from the Cody's Wish backstory, but the on-the-track story, I think Elite Power is a great story. Like you just said, the horse starts as a maiden, wins, eventually breaks the maiden this year, then just all of a sudden wins one graded stakes and then wins the Breeders' Cup Sprint pretty convincingly too. And it wasn't like, hey, some 30-1 shot won the race. Like, this was a horse who was just getting better and better and better, and then won the race at the biggest race of the year. So to me, Elite Power is almost a no-brainer. I think if Cody's Wish would have ran in and won the sprint, then I think that would have been a no-brainer. I would have given it to him, even though it's only two technically sprint wins. And to me, Jackie's Warrior is a toss, because you can't lose to the other two horses in the that you're nominated against. You can't lose to both of them convincingly and win the award, I don't think.
Guys, I'm shocked. I have to say, I'm being very serious. I'm shocked that you both would vote for Elite Power. I don't get it. I'm sorry.
Cody's Wish isn't a sprinter, Howard. He's not a sprinter. So
I don't know. I
think
Jackie's Warrior should absolutely win this award.
I think not to be mean, but I think that's a horrendous take, because he got blasted by.
Come on, Pete. Let's go.
Well, who's the grumpy one now?
I don't. And that's not really my style, so I'm not a take person. But
go ahead, Pete. Bring it on. Bring it.
No, I'm just saying, when you actually sit down and look at the resumes, you can't lose to both. You had two shots to beat these horses, and you got blasted in both of them.
Wait, what did Elite Power accomplish other than the Breeders' Cup? This race right here, Pete. Okay, we can see on the
Jackie's Warrior beat no good fields this year, though. He didn't beat one good horse.
The field that Jackie's Warrior beat was a hell of a lot better than this garbage Vosberg, one of the worst.
But he beat the Breeders' Cup Classic field.
I understand, but it can't be all just about the Breeders' Cup. It's got to be about. I mean, I like Elite Power.
Okay, so tell me what Jackie's Warrior did that was better.
He won a bunch of graded stake races. Not his fault that people didn't show up for him, and he did it in fast times, and he did it well. I don't.
Yeah, but when he went up against Cody's Wish at a sprinter distance, which he's supposed to be better at, he lost. When he went up against Elite,
that was 7, right?
Still, he's a sprinter. Cody's Wish isn't a pure sprinter, and he still beat him on the square.
Cody's Wish is really good. Elite Power would be my third choice of the three. How about that?
Oh, that's not. Yeah, and that's a terrible take. I hate to say.
No, I don't think it is at all.
Wow. Oh, it's.
I will say this:
one big race, and the other race we see on the screen was an absolutely awful field.
I would say this, Howard. I would have not a quibble in the world if Jackie's Warrior, because I think, he's really has been a warrior, is an aptly named horse. I think the issue is, if you want to make a case against him, the argument is he never won when he didn't have the race go all his own way. Pipeline challenged him.
Maybe he's just that damn fast, Paul. I don't know. I mean,
well, if he was that damn fast, Pipeline.
How'd Nick's go do when he didn't have the lead? How'd he do?
If he was that damn fast, Pipeline wouldn't have been fighting with him all the way through the forego, which is what allowed Cody's Wish to win the race.
That was a bad race for Jackie. I can't defend it. It was a bad race.
So, hey, look, like I say, I will be watching since Uncle Howard gave us the night off after working 9 days in a row. I'll be watching.
Take it easy. World's smallest violin. Here we go.
And honestly, Jackie's Warrior for the last couple of years has been one of my favorite horses. And I if you look at all the categories, I probably had one of my 2 or 3 least strong opinions in this division.
Let's take some quick comments, guys. Let's get to the other. And that's what, listen, we're all great buddies. We can, we're just, we are serious about our opinions here, but, I think it'll be all good. I don't think we're going to any breakups here because of this argument. Jim Pilar said he'd be shocked if Jackie's Warrior does not win based on reputation alone. Tom Espinosa thinks Cody's Wish wins. Emotion shouldn't play into it, but he think it might. And then Jim mentioned that he agrees with you, Pete. He loves the feistiness. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I wish I agreed with Pete. Jim Pilar's, again, the most astute. Sorry, Christine Race.
Well, no.
Jim Pilar's the most astute.
He thinks Jackie's Warrior is going to win He thinks Jackie's Warrior is going to win as more of a lifetime achievement than a reputational.
Jackie's Warrior had a really good year.
He had a really good year, but he wasn't
really good.
When he ran against. I mean, you lost to the 2 other nominees, and you didn't beat either one of them. Then to me, you can't win if you lost. And it wasn't in one race.
Oh, geez.
I mean, it's terrible. Jackie's
Listen,
Warrior.
honestly, I just want to clear the air. Honestly, I'm not saying Jackie's War is some kind of standout in this debate. I just think he's better than the other two.
Howard, how about any love for Jack Christopher in this division who didn't make the finals?
Nah, he just didn't race enough. He just didn't race enough, Paul. He was spectacular, but he just didn't race enough. Again, we got to move on, guys. But I don't know. He won the Count Fleet. He won the Churchill Down.
Won the Vanderbilt.
Won the True North. Won the Vanderbilt. He ran well in the Forgo, guys, and I don't think 7 is his best distance. If you want to say, well, then he shouldn't win because he can't win at 7, okay, I can't argue with that. And then he didn't run his race, in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, again, I can't defend it. Anyway, it's going to be fascinating, guys. We'll see. Janet Fable, you are as good as your last race. You say a lot. Pete and Paul make the right call.
See, now we have
Janet,
some smart people chiming in finally.
Janet, I can respect that. I just don't think it's a one-race vote. I think you have to look at the whole year. It's a year-long vote. It's not what happened, and plus, if it's not a year-long vote, we should consider, as you said, Paul, all the way through the Malibu. I mean, so anyway, that's not why I like Taba. I'm just making that argument. Let's move on, guys. Good discussion. Next one, the female turf. I've heard a lot of interesting opinions on this, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it on screen. I don't think this is cut and dry at all. You see it's right below here. It's in Italian, Regal Glory, both trained by Chad Brown and Warlike Goddess, who had another excellent year. Paul, who did you vote for? Who should win? Who will win?
I voted for In Italian.
Of course.
I think.
How'd I know that?
I think she should win.
Okay.
I'm not positive. I think it's she or Regal. I hear a lot about Regal Glory. I didn't love the Breeders' Cup performance. I think she did have a good year, but boy, I was one of those. Oh well, I'll let an Italian beat me. Is this in Italian? Oh,
I'm going to bring her up. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that on the screen. Go ahead. I'm going to bring her up right now.
I was in the camp of I'll let this horse beat me, and when she went around in the lead that time at Saratoga, we said, oh, it's just one Chad Brown horse running around in the lead with others, but boy, she just
won. I mean, she's she won the Honey Fox, second in the Churchill Downs distaff. A little disappointing there. Won third in the Just a Game, but then won the Diana. She really came on late. Won the Diana, won the First Lady. I think she was 1-1 with Regal Glory. Am I remember that right, Paul?
I think so.
No,
I think so.
Correct.
And then,
and again, this was not a slam dunk for me. I do think it's one of those two, though, but we'll see.
You have to give an Italian a big tip of the cap for that very good second in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, that to me does go a pretty long way. So there's an Italian. They face each other a lot. Who do you think? I'm sorry, Paul. Did you say who do you thought is going to win? Did you say you think it's an Italian?
I think it's an Italian or Regal Glory. I think it's kind of a flip of the coin.
Okay. As I go back to our full screen, I'm going to go and bring up Regal Glory. What's your opinion here, Pete?
I thought the note I took on this one was it was the toughest choice. I don't think any of them really had full Eclipse Award worthy seasons, like where they just stood out. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, this is definitely the best. It felt like Regal Glory, you could easily make a case. I mean, Warlike Goddess, I couldn't make a case for to beat the other two, but it wasn't that far off. So I went with an Italian. Obviously, I just really love that horse. And
here's Regal Glory, Pete.
Yeah, and I think that the Breeders' Cup race, like Paul said, that was just that's a tough one to swallow, and then wasn't at her tip-top best as the year went along. The Matriarch was sort of a weak field that she demolished.
Yeah.
But the other ones in a row where she just wasn't at her best, whereas maybe earlier in the season she would have had a foothold on this one. So I just thought In Italian was more impressive towards the end. And like you said, that Breeders' Cup was a great race. I mean, there was no shame in that defeat in that race. So
running against the boys, obviously.
I think you're talking about Italian.
Oh, I was talking about an Italian, but yeah, even the same for Regal Glory. But she ran so poorly that it's sort of there's not much you could take from that one. But I think
she was 3 wide and up too close, and just
I mean, again, I wouldn't. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I talked to Chad that night at an event, and he just said this wasn't the trip that they had planned out.
No, but I
even
mean,
so,
that
she could have run
happens.
better. But
Yeah,
anyway,
but that happens. But I mean, I think if Regal Glory won, nothing. If an Italian wins,
Yeah.
no surprise either way. I think they're both deserving in a field that's a
Yeah.
little shorter than probably you would hope for.
and Worley Goddess just didn't face anything.
Nothing. That was my take on her.
I don't understand. I know why she's nominated, but I think it's one of those two. I personally would have a slight nod to Regal Glory. Maybe I'm again thinking more of that Lifetime thing, but
And anti-Italian.
I could go
as
either
usual,
way, guys.
but,
In Italian was fantastic, and guys, again, it's like almost like the future bets. Whoever's doing better lately, people remember more, right? And I don't think horses should get more credit because they're more recent because of recency, but just so happens the recency is the Breeders' Cup and blah blah blah, and so people just remember that more often than the races earlier.
But we also, when we handicap, we too look at that where it's,
Yeah.
you look at a horse that's on the uptick as opposed to one that's maybe a little bit on the downtick. So I think as a voter, you probably look at that as well.
Last one is the only human award we're going to look at. Paul, there's two human awards, the two big human, at least to me. First of all, we're not going to talk about, but who did you vote for personally, and who should win the jockey? It's Irad, Flavian, or Joel.
I voted for Irad, and I think he'll win.
Okay,
by a lot.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
You see Steve Asmussen, Chad Brown, Todd Pletcher. I've got a little bit of a bone to pick with the NTRA, to be honest with you here, Paul. And we talked about it through, I think, text or phone. If they're going to look at number of wins and earnings, it's going to be these three guys like every damn year. And I heard Steve Bick talk about this at the races and other places. Not every trainer is going to have the same number of horses, and I just don't think they should look at that. I think they should look at the top trainers and what they did with what they had. I mean, Bill Mott to me is much more deserving to be in this category than Steve Asmussen. That's just my personal opinion. So I have a major problem with how they decided on these three in general. That being said, who did you vote for? Who should win? Who will win?
I agree with you 100%, by the way, and I did vote for Bill Mott third. I think the top two were pretty clear. I have Todd Pletcher in a photo over Chad Brown. I went Todd, Chad, and Bill Mott. And,
okay.
You're right, Howard. And by the way, Asmussen is tremendous, and the pace he keeps is unbelievable. He'll be at Saratoga on Saturday morning, and then you'll see him at Remington Park or somewhere on Sunday night. But I think in this particular year, Bill, I look a lot, when I go to vote for the trainer and the jockey, I go back and look at the horses who I'm voting in the top three and who won those races. And, Bill won 2 Breeders' Cup races, and I just think he had a very good year. But
this is Pletcher, by the way, guys. This is Pletcher. This is graded stakes in 2022. Again, this is only graded stakes you see on the screen. If you can see that, had 181 stars in graded stakes, 20% win, had 36 graded stake wins this year, Paul, for over 18 million.
And, trainer of 2 champions, right? Malathat is going to win the female dirt horse, and Forte is going to win the 2-year-old male. So
how do you decide the winning trainer, Paul? I guess that's the big question.
And Nest, Paul. He's going to have 3 Eclipse
I
Award
forgot.
winners.
Very
Nest.
good, Pete.
Yeah. How do you decide, Paul?
Well, you look at those numbers, but, you can't, to your point, you can't rule out someone. If a guy like Mott, for example, has a year where he wins 22% and has half as many grade 1, the percentage is a good thing to look at. I thought he was worthy of the top 3, and that's where I voted him third. It's tough. You can say, well, you can bet for Todd Pletcher or Chad Brown every year, but you know what? You can't penalize them for having the number of horses they have either. You do have to look at numbers at some point and how they produce. And
this is Chad Brown. He had 51 grade stakes, but listen, down year is such a ridiculous statement to say, but he didn't really have the superstars he's had in the past, and I just think Pletcher deserves it.
I agree, and that's how I voted. What do I think will happen? I think Pletcher, to be honest with you, because I think someone mentioned about the Cody's Risk story having a human emotion to it. You know, this should not play in, but the issue Chad had at Saratoga may just be enough to, and it absolutely should not. And I did not take it into account one iota when I say that I voted for Pletcher in a photo. But if you ask me, could it sway? Remember, he could lose by 1 or 2 first place votes. Could that be the difference for someone? Yes, it could. Do I think it should? Absolutely not. But we're dealing with humans doing the voting here.
Lon Garfield. What's up, Lon? How you doing, Lon? Appreciate you joining the show. Lon's been a fan of the show for a while. Appreciate it, Lon. I wasn't going to bring that up, Paul, but listen, we're humans, right? And there are people that have vendettas, and I really hope that wouldn't be a factor. Pete, who should win it this year? Trainer of the year.
I had Pletcher. I agree with a lot of stuff that Paul says, and I sort of went with, I just put things down like, where do you finish money earned, wins, percentages, grade 1 winners, like Chad had 13 grade 1 winners, not grade 1 wins, but grade 1 winning horses, 9 grade 1 for Pletcher. But then I thought, when I just looked at the names of the horses between the two, like Chad Brown's best horses, Regal Glory, In Italian, Goodnight Olive, Jack Christopher, excellent horses, Zand in early voting. But then you look at Pletcher, Malathot, Life is Good, Nest, Forte, Mo Donegal, who won a Triple Crown race, Colonel Liam, who was great early. I thought
he's got a horse in almost every damn category, Pete.
And that's what I looked. So he had his 4 nominees: Malathot, Life is Good, Nest, and Forte, 3 wins. And you got a horse who, if you put Life is Good in the Horse of the Year finals, nobody would be shocked. So, and actually, you could put Malathot in that consideration behind Flightline at some point. So I just thought top ended his was the best. He got a Triple Crown win. He won more Breeders' Cup races, and he had a ton of wins. He got more wins, not as high of a percentage, but more wins. So to me, it was Pletcher. It was, once I put it on paper, I didn't have any question. Like, I would have, when you don't think about it, you would have just said, Chad Brown, Pletcher, they're both awesome. Who the hell? It's a 50-50 spot. But when I put it on paper, it was a definite Pletcher for me.
Last question. I'm going to throw this to Paul. Brad Cox, his lack of turf horses is really hurting him in this situation. Paul, do you ever see a scenario where he's going to be more invested into turf racing? Because I just don't see, unless his dirt races go dirt horses are completely off the charts good, I just don't see him winning this category, which would be a real damn shame.
Yeah, because he's good. He is really, really good. And I got to tell you, he's on my, when I make my rounds in the mornings up there, I'm just about every day I'm walking by his barn. So I just see the operation up close and personal. And he's good. But you know what? There's a guy in California who doesn't have any turf horses either. And he won't win it for different reasons. But, and the other part about Brad is, he, this time of year, he's got, such a major string at Oaklawn, where the turf racing is not an option. Bleecker Street. Interesting.
Shout out to Rob. I don't think we've seen Rob N before. Rob, thanks for joining the show.
Welcome.
New people all the time. Appreciate it, Rob. Don't be a stranger, Rob.
So, no, you bring up a good point, because people knock Chad for not having dirt horses. Then he goes out and wins the Preakness with a very carefully plotted out campaign for early voting. So, I think it's a valid point, but would it prevent me from voting for Brad Cox? Well, absolutely not.
By the way, Bleecker Street back on the work tab, guys.
Love that.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I love him. Love
him.
So
remember,
Janet,
Chad said that
very
they're going to
good,
bring
Janet.
him back, so she's back in training. Thank you, Janet. Appreciate that. We had we had a good time. We might, should I say it, Paul? We might have a very well known trainer coming on this week. We might.
We're
I don't want to say who.
We're efforting is.
We're working on it, guys. It would be on Wednesday if possible.
Hey.
Guys, we're going to go. Sorry. Go ahead,
Can I just ask Paul, just without getting into it, Paul, who'd you vote for in the male turf? I know we talked about that one quick. I was just curious.
Guys,
I'm just curious who you voted for.
I'm glad you brought it up, Pete. It's not so. I'll tell you, I voted for Modern Games.
Okay, me too.
Then Nation's Pride, and then Rebels Romance. The 3 finalists. There it is, and I'm glad that
there's the choices.
I thought that it was completely fitting that those are the three, because I think I don't remember a worse year for U.S. male turf horses. Do you?
Agreed.
Does anyone, Howard? You talked about your 30 years. I mean, at the top level. I mean, who's the It was really bad.
I would say the
Really
best
bad.
male U.S. turf horse
Gufo?
this year.
Gufo, at some points.
I think Annapolis or Gufo. Annapolis, you got to give some love to. He really came on late,
which is terrible. Both of them.
Actually,
But now you look at
I love Big Invasion, the sprinter, the Clermont sprinter. He just unfortunately got hurt at Kentucky Downs and didn't run. I want Golden Pal. I mean, he's just, I don't know. It was bad.
But I'm just saying, I'm not. I didn't know it was going to come out that way, but I made a conscious effort, Pete, to vote for those three, 1, 2, and 3, just thinking that a Euro has to win this category.
Yeah, Paul, I'm sorry, Howard, I know we want to go, but I was just going to say, I never talked to a voter about this before. Do you have anything against, Paul, voting for a horse who just comes over and wins the Breeders' Cup and that's it? Like, to me, I would almost not. I generally would say I wouldn't vote for that horse. I even did it in the steeple. I was going through all the categories. I didn't know we were going to do a few. Even in the steeplechase, I was like, I don't really like and I didn't know anything about them until I looked.
Deep diving into the steeplechase. I love it.
But tell Ed DeRosa.
I'll take snap decision.
That's who I voted for too. That's who I had too.
Okay.
Yeah, Pete, I would say in general, I like to see a minimum of, first of all, the minimum requirement is that you only have to run once in North America, right? I like to see a minimum of 2, but in that turf division, Pete, that male turf division, all bets are off, because you could have had any number of Euros come over and won once that I would have voted for.
Yeah, I'm just fundamentally would be against it unless it's
fundamentally, but
yeah,
I agree, guys. The very last category is brought by Jim Pillars. This is a tough one.
Ooh,
Christine Race, Jim Pillars, or Trish Smith for HHH Viewer of the Year. Never mind. I probably did not want to know the answer. Jim, it's one of the two ladies, without a doubt. I'm gonna have to go Christine Race, guys. I gotta go Christine Race. Jim, I love you. Trish, we love you. I'm going Christine Race.
That's a tough one. I mean, I see Jim left all the Italians off, obviously, but he's following Howard's play. But
how about a 10,000 way tie for first for everyone who contributes?
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I'm gonna have to abstain from that one. I'm gonna go like the cheesy horse voters who abstain from categories.
All right, guys, it's been a lot of fun. Really appreciate everyone watching tonight. Really good conversation. It's gonna be fascinating. The Eclipse Awards are 7:30 Eastern Thursday night, live from the Breakers in Palm Beach, which I drove by the way. They wouldn't allow me in. I'm not, high profile enough, of course, but it's a beautiful resort, very famous resort in was it West Palm Beach or Palm Beach Gardens, I believe.
Palm Beach. How, you know what I did when I was in college? You laugh about
that?
Not being allowed in there.
Is this rated R? Is this a rated PG story?
No, yeah, absolutely. I never did anything other than rated G in college, whether I wanted to or not. I pulled in the parking. There was a parking lot that backed up right to the golf course. There's a golf course there.
Yes, there is.
And kind of ran through a few trees, threw a ball down, and took one shot on the Breakers golf course because I said I might never
without
do it
clothes
again.
on, Paul.
No, I had plenty of clothes on.
All right, was it a 1-iron or a pitching? Forget it.
I don't remember. Okay. I just wanted to say I could hit a shot there because I correctly predicted I may not. And you never know. Maybe someday. Maybe someday we'll go play there, Howard.
It looks beautiful there. Guys, really enjoyed it. Again, tomorrow night, we showed the rundown. I'm not going to bring it up again. We got shows tomorrow night, Tuesday. We have 2 shows Wednesday. We're off Thursday. Live shows Saturday from the Villa Park OTB for the pool party on Pegasus Day. For a Eclipse voting co-host, Paul Halloran, and just another dude like me, Pete Visco. This is Howard Kravitz, episode 222 of the HHH Racing Podcast. Thanks for watching. Please join us Tuesday and or Wednesday night for exclusive previews of the huge Pegasus Day card this Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
if you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.